From the PSIA-AASI satellite studios in Boulder, Colorado, I'm George Thomas here for Nutcracker rehearsals. Unfortunately, missing team training where Kevin Jordan and the rest of the team are located out in Keystone. Kevin, what's it like? We've got great snow this year.
Oh yeah, we're on snow. So we're staying in Breck, and we're skiing at A Basin, and A Basin has been awesome conditions, and yeah, it's snowing right now, and we're just kind of wrapping up. So I figured it'd be a good time to jump on the podcast, and thanks for having me, George.
It's always good to see you. And I'm just pulling Keystone out of my ear.
Well, it's open, and Loveland opens tomorrow, and Breckenridge opened today on Friday, November 8th. So yeah, so like it's happening. Winter is happening in Colorado. I don't know about elsewhere, but it's happening in
Eldora
Colorado.
opened yesterday. They were
Oh,
coming
nice.
down. I went up to the house in Ned today, and yeah, there were a lot of people out, and a lot of snow on my car.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, what is it like for you? Let's get into team training. I mean, what is team training? And I've actually got a lot of questions here for you about this because we hear about it, but I mean, you guys are the national team, and this is really the first time since tryouts last April when you all have been together in person, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this is the first team training of this term. So this is my second term. But because of COVID, I only had a 3-year term on the first team I was on. And while it is my second term, and yes, I've been a team member before, I do like to remind like everybody that it's actually our first term or first year together. So this is my first year on this particular team, which is helpful to realize like, we're all in this kind of together. But team training is a time for us to come together and, think through some different things. And this is my fourth one here. And, I figured it would just be cool for the listeners to like, just see like what did you do, because everybody always asks like what did you do, what was the focus, what happened, what you do. So if you haven't been to a team training, we normally ski in the morning. In the afternoon we'll do some indoor kind of meetings, some people will present to us, sometimes we'll do some workshop stuff. So my thinking is I wanted to like share two things, like two top takeaways that was pretty cool. One was we had a little bit more of a mechanical focus this year. So precursor to team training over the kind of fall, summer, maybe around September, October, we had a couple Zoom calls. So compare that to the team I was on before, we didn't do that. So we had a couple
Oh,
like
you didn't?
pre-work. We had a couple pre-work sessions that was kind of nice. And we decided that to focus on basic parallel as the vehicle. So we had talked about what we're looking for in basic parallel, and then we actually did that out on the snow. So our focus was basic parallel, and what are you seeing, what are you observing in each other. So I'll just share my experience. I was with a group, and what was really funny is, we get down the bottom, we're like, oh yeah, we're really awesome, we're really great skiers, and they had this moment of like, none of us were actually parallel like all the time. Like maybe 90% of the time we were parallel, but sometimes we'd make a little A for Aspen, like a wedge entry or converging. So that's an A for Aspen, or some of us were making a little bit of a V for Vale. So it was like the A for Aspen, the V for Vale. It was like we're not really parallel. Let's see if we can do it. And what was cool about that is that then we had the goal to make our skis and the ski performance more parallel relationship throughout the entire turn. It's early season, a little, we're not as used to it. We're dusting off the rust. So that actually progressed into basically like having a mechanical focus of some some I guess the best way to describe it would be like more stronger, like kind of rotational control, or like more of a stable upper body, with the idea of, I know we're on Zoom so I can show you this, but I'll explain for the listeners of like trying to kind of keep our, and this is not like an absolute, it's not all the time. For the most part, our intention is kind of like our shoulders and our pelvis towards the direction of like where we want to go. So in the transition, I'm kind of facing like the next apex because my skis are going to go there. And this will create some more stability in my upper body. And then I'm able to turn the skis and my legs underneath, my stable upper body, and I'll be more able to go where I want to go. So what was cool about that is if you think about from a consistency standpoint, and or like at some point we're going to do some formation skiing, this will help us become, give up some of my own personality in my skiing to then be able to follow one of my teammates better. And so we've kind of identified that, if you think about like the transverse plane, it's a little bit more of, just, aligning better to where we want to go. And me personally, I'll speak for me personally, not everyone on the team, because everyone had different experiences. you know, it's early in the season. I'm a little like rusty. I'm a little lazy. So maybe I'm planning my pull, but I'm dropping my inside hand and I'm losing that quote unquote strong inside half. And my shoulders would come around. And then I'd have to, do some more moves, and it wasn't as clean or efficient to kind of go the other way. So that was kind of our big mechanical focus of like, you want to kind of be looking where you want to go, not to confuse it with like, oh, zipper facing straight down the hill all the time. It's more about like kind of skiing into the future and setting up your body to be in the right position to do that. So that was kind of focus number one. Focus number two was some point during the training. It was kind of one of our like last day of training kind of on the snow, because then we start to ski with some other special guests and suppliers and other things. And so we did a little bit more of a teaching focus where everybody kind of jumped in and they facilitated, based on what they were seeing or observing. Then they would try to throw out, do we need to change or give another activity? Do we need to allow for more practice? Like, what do we need to do? But everyone gets a chance to kind of facilitate. And the key kind of takeaway out of there is that, based on observations, you have to kind of pay attention to what the group needs, or you have to ask them, or you have to collaborate with them, so that then you can actually make some decisions to help them get better. So from a teaching focus, sometimes we have the plan set, or we know what activity to do, but we just jump to it, and we maybe miss some of those visual cues, or maybe like picking up on the body language of like, no, this person's super focused. They don't want to move on to the next thing, So that was kind of fun to just, get out in front of the group and then, work together. I know some groups, my group is a little bit more collaborative and trying to work together on, getting people better. And we all of a sudden created a massive practice space where the focus was, that outcome of like, can we create a more stable upper body than we've had? Can we be a little more consistent in that as a team? Can we maybe give up some of our own personality and our own skiing to do that? And so it was really fun. It was really cool. And compared
Now,
to, I've only hit. Yep, go ahead.
are these activities and tasks that you're doing, do you do these then and kind of try them out with each other, and then maybe take those to divisional staff training when you're out with the ed staffs, who then will share that with uh, us members when we're taking clinics at our areas?
Yeah, sure. I mean, let me back up a second. Let me show you where we started with the activity. It was basically an outside ski turn. So the inside ski off the snow, and you couldn't drag your inside pole. So you couldn't use that as like a turning force. And you had to kind of keep it in that basic parallel-ish, kind of speed and realm. You could drag your outside pole, but only a little bit if you really needed to. And it was super hard, like for me, I was like, oh, I keep dragging my poles. Like maybe I should just throw my poles in the woods. Like I don't need them anymore. Like, because I was so focused on like, oh, now I'm goofing it up. And what's hard about it is like to get it going, you really have to be very well aligned. And you also need to have like the momentum through the turn helping you. So while basic parallel is maybe a slower turn, it's harder because you can't hide things with speed. So that's kind of where we started. And where we went from that, like for me personally, again, I'll share my experience. Like I had to do some javelin turns because that started to create some more upper and lower body separation for me. I had to do like really literally get rid of my poles. I had to put my poles like across my back because I was like, maybe this will help create
You
more
did need to get rid
stability.
of them.
Yeah, so I did get rid of them. And, but it was like experimenting kind of one variable at a time. But other people were doing, different things. They were maybe doing reverse javelin, different things. So it wasn't so much about the activity. It was just trying to start somewhere and then move towards, when are we ready to move towards the next thing? Are we doing it better? Is everybody clear what we're looking for? So what I kind of use as reference points is like you got a patch on your right arm, you got a little North Face emblem on the left. And so what I would do in the transition as kind of a checkpoint is like, say if I'm looking up or observing up and the skier skiing down to me, if that shield kind of comes across way too much and I just see it like pointing down the hill, then I know that they're not necessarily achieving the task. If they go the other way, same thing, the North Face. Yeah, exactly. Like, so you just know that they were going more than they needed to because, it's just, maybe it's mobility, maybe we're not as in shape. Maybe it's we're forgetting how to do this, or remembering how to do this. But just having that awareness, like, I mean, I felt like I got better day after day after day. It helped that that it snowed a couple times, so the snow got better. It
How many
helped that all
days were you on snow this year? And I asked because, I mean,
yeah,
last year, nobody was on snow.
yeah.
Or was
So
that?
we were on snow for a total of four days. So Monday night we kind of got together and we did some things, had dinner together, and then Tuesday was really the first day on snow, and then Wednesday we continued, Thursday we continued, Friday we're still on snow, but we do some photo shoots, we do some other stuff, we ski around. There's some alumni, there's some suppliers that kind of call it the ride and slide day. So we can't necessarily train. Like we can keep practicing what we're doing, but we don't have like official training groups because there's a lot of guests. So
Now, what's it like? You're out on the snow for the first time since April with the rookie team members. As you said, it's everybody's first year on this edition of the team, but their rookie team that you haven't really gotten to interact with a lot in person. I know you've had
right.
some Zoom meetings, but are you guys all going, oh my gosh, why did we pick? No, I'm totally kidding.
No,
It,
no, I
it,
think, yeah, I
it's
think
got
like,
to be a really fun time
yeah,
because, I mean, you're together for the first time and you've got interski coming up really
yeah,
fast.
yeah, exactly. And I think, I have two reflections, right? Number one, I was a first team member. And so some of the team members that I went to as like mentors, like even today, I was like, man, I must have asked you so many questions. And if that was like a lot or kind of overwhelming to you, I apologize. So, because now I'm getting all the questions and some of those, which is fine. Like that's, I'm happy to answer those and that kind of stuff. It's how people, learn. But I just had this moment of like, wow, I must have asked a ton of questions to help figure out, well, what should I be doing? What should I not be doing? Different things like that. So that was one. Two, was interski is such a big event, and I just remember this feeling of like, oh my gosh, it's so big and we talk about it a lot and it is really important, and that's all accurate, but I had no sense of what it was until I had gone to it, right? And there's a lot of pressure I put on myself to like, I want to do a good job. So we had talked a little bit about it, and in one session we were kind of like, what should we keep from it, what should we not keep, and it's here in the US. And I just like had this moment of like, man, if I was in the first term kind of person's shoes, I don't really have anything to contribute right now because I've never been to one. It's only what I think it might be. And so I had this moment of like, if you're new, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Yes, it is a big deal, but you were hired, you were selected for this team for a reason. You'll rise to the occasion. Like that's all you got to remember, and if you don't know what they're talking about with this like retro ski race, it's like you'll see it. It'll be fine. You'll be fine. So I just had that moment of like, for everybody who's in the room, there's a lot of people who have had experiences at 4 or 5 or 6. Michael Rogan's been to so many of them that it's like, well, this time at this place and this point at this place, it's like great. He has a lot to offer in terms of the interski conversation. But if you were new, you do still have a voice. You just don't know what it is yet. And it's okay. You'll be fine.
Well, speaking about the new people who are there, what about the people that were your mentors and that maybe stepped down? Because
Yeah.
there was a lot of turnover this year, and
Yep.
some big names and longtime team members that are not part of the team this year. Well, they're always part of the team as
Sure.
alumni and everything, but
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they're not there every day as they were in the past. What does that feel like to have someone that you have that familiarity with gone?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad you asked that because I actually reached out to all of them at different times and just kind of texted them like
Oh, you did?
that I kind of missed them. And I think it was because it happened to me at different times, but maybe it was one conversation we're talking about something technical, and I was like, oh man, like where's Jonathan? Where's Jonathan in this conversation? Because that's all I knew, and he's not there, right? And then I remember messaging Robin, and Robin and I had done some stuff with like Head because Head was our partner, our supplier. And so I remember reaching out to her, and she's so good. Like she's just like, remember, this is like the new team. You gotta be present, you gotta stay like this is your team. And she's like, that's awesome that you miss me, but you know, like you gotta be in the moment. And it's just a helpful reminder. Like she's so good like that about just thinking it through, that this is a team and you gotta pay attention to like that moment of like you are bonding together. So you have to be there for it.
Now, how long has it been since you've been on snow? Because you had a long season.
Yeah, it was a long season. I got to do some biking, but this summer particularly, I got a trip to go to Portillo, where we talked to you, George. So that was kind of end of July, early August. That was 7 days of skiing right then and there. And then in October, I did a couple special trips to Big Snow in New Jersey, the indoor ski
Yep.
dome. So I did have like 3 days or kind of 3 half days under my belt from October, which I do feel like makes a difference
Oh, it
coming into
makes a
day
big
one
difference.
because it was like, oh yeah, I've done this, and it's been, it was only like last month, really. So it was about a month ago that I had done some skiing, not a ton, but some. So I did feel like a little more prepared, for that. But yeah, I mean, when you come in that first day, it's like, hey, let's warm up for a little bit so we remember how to do this before we start coaching each other and talking about things.
So, personal question that I'd love for you to
Yep,
share with the membership if you're comfortable with it.
sure.
What is your main focus for yourself to develop in the learning connection this year for you personally?
Yeah, I think, for me personally, it's like to be hired for the team, you have to have the whole package of everything. But one of the areas that I have a lot of technical understanding, but I don't have as much like confidence in the technical understanding. Does that make sense? So it's maybe more of like how I think about it or how I've had to explain it. I'm getting good practice at like making it more simple to others. But a lot of times, I can get off track or go other places and that kind of stuff. So I'm really focusing on some of the technical understanding for not to gain more of it, but to gain more confidence in speaking about it, if that makes sense.
Yep. And I mean, that's something all of us should have going into a season is what part of the learning connection do I
Yeah.
really need to do some work on to help myself become a better instructor?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And it's every time we ask you all, you never have any hesitation. It's like, oh, I really need to work on this.
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean,
So,
like now I have more of a mechanical technical focus. I would have said if you asked me before this training, I was kind of focusing on this inside arm kind of being up and bent because that would allow me to angulate a little better. So now I'm kind of adding that in with like that's still a cue for me, but it's a little bit more of having a more stable upper body. And then when I say stable, it's not like it doesn't move, it does move, but can I turn like legs and things against it so that I'm in a better position to, number one, receive some force from the snow so that the snow turns my ski versus me like turning the ski on top of the snow, right? Because sometimes early season I do that more often because it's easier, or oh, I don't know what the surface is going to be like, or having that, then it creates more options for how I want to get into the turn or what kind of turn size do I want to make. So that's to me like what I'm now focusing on. But I would argue that I won't speak for everyone on the team, and I think a lot of us are all kind of thinking in that similar vein of like, whoa, maybe we have some work to do here. And it's not that we all want to ski like similarly, like exactly the same. I don't think we don't want to lose that. We honor the fact that there's some, America created freestyle skiing and moguls and things like that. So we want to celebrate that. But are you a good enough skier that you could maybe give up some of your personality to then become more consistent or ski more like one of my teammates' turns? So that if I needed to follow them or in a formation or something, I can kind of nail it, right? Or versus like, do I just want to ski however I want to ski? You know what I mean? Can
you know,
I do both? So
I think that's very funny you brought that up because it really made me think of interski, where all of you are out there, but it kind of blows my mind to be you look up and you see the same uniform, but it's like, oh, that's Kevin. Oh, there's Josh
right.
Fogg. And you just know, even though you ski very similarly, but not the same, which is great because the
Yeah.
individual is always there.
Yeah, I think about it like a lot. Like skiing to me is kind of like musicians and artists, like artists, musicians, where they have influences, right? And so there's different skiers who influence me. Like, oh, I like how that person skis, and I want to kind of adapt that and bring that in. So I bring all these different influences, and then I create like my own kind of like painting on the canvas of the snow of like my own skiing. But I'm also like, I should be good enough that I can also ski more like Josh if I needed to, or ski more like Mike Hafer, or ski more like Dusty. but I don't think we want to lose any of that personality stuff. I just think we want to be able to, ski as a team, so to speak, and be able to to show that, you know.
Mike Hafer, glad you brought him up because last year when there was no snow, we talked about hockey so much. Was there any hockey going on at team
Yeah,
training this year?
yeah. Last night we
There was.
we went to Mike Hafer's hockey game and we convinced some of the other disciplines to come and we had the best time. Unfortunately, they did not win, but that's okay. We still had a good time. And it's so much fun because basically when 20 to 30 people come in and they're cheering for a team and one individual, it is quite overwhelming for the other team and the rest of Mike Hafer's teammates. But he's such a good sport about it. And man, it is just it's such a good team bonding. So they're like, we gotta do it. We gotta do it, especially if he's playing in the rec hockey league. And it's nowhere near watching NHL whatsoever. It's just kind of, I think Zeke said it the best. He's like, it's a step above pickup. It's like a step above pickup hockey, but everyone's having fun. And that's kind of the nice thing of like, you've worked, you talked about some technical concepts. Maybe you got coached on your skiing. Maybe you're ready for it. Maybe you weren't, but you're always trying to get better. And it's one of those nice things to just kind of blow off steam and kind of rally around a teammate. It's so much fun.
Kevin, what are you looking forward to next after team training comes to an end?
Yeah, well, we've got Rocky Mountain has their ed staff training that's right around the corner, and exciting this year. It's actually in partnership with Intermountain. So Intermountain is coming to us, so that includes like resorts like in Utah and everything. So they're traveling to us to go skiing. We're gonna at A Basin, Loveland, and Keystone. We're gonna need, because we have more people coming, we need 3 different kind of areas to do that. So I'm looking forward to that next, and then back in Aspen, getting everything up and running, and then the season will be here. The holidays will be here before we know it, and then it will be like, whoa, we're at National Academy. How did that happen?
And everybody's burned out. No. Kevin, it is great seeing you. I love the smile on your face. Looks like you had a great time at team training this year. Really bummed I wasn't there, but glad we were able to connect.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, George. Thanks for having me. And I know you'll be here at one point or another.
From the PSIA-AASI satellite studios in Boulder, Colorado, thanks so much for listening to First Chair. And Kevin Jordan from the national team, thanks so much for joining us.